Hey guys, Tony Rowe here, back with another Lee Chess Rapid game against Urumi, rated 2143. Let's see what we get here. We're gonna get a Slav, or an Anglo-Slav, more accurately. Main move is d takes c4, but at my level people very rarely play that. Way more normal is bishop f5, bishop g4, or e6. Yeah, that's a move. It's an annoying one. Alright. We'll go b3 just to battle with this dude down the long diagonal. Castles, castles. And white can usually pick plans involving d3 and knight b to d2, or d4 and knight c3. Those are the usual options. I'm going to go d4. I played the plans with d3 for a long time, but I really don't think they're much of anything for white. And I sort of get sick of remembering how I'm supposed to deal with, when I play d3, I get sick of remembering how to deal with black trying to play e5 in all these positions, so I'm just not gonna mess with that anymore. He goes knight e4. Yeah, I think I can go knight c3, and if he takes, I'll take with the bishop. That seems fine. I think this is actually one place that I'm not super happy with my level of understanding in my repertoire, but you know, you always need something to work on, I guess. So bishop f5. Knight h4 I think would be the most thematic, and then probably he has to go knight c3, bishop e6, and then maybe I just go queen d3 and I get ready for e4. I think I'm going to play that. That's the... Usually you probably shouldn't let a bishop on f5 hang out for too long. You can take on c3 and then go bishop e4, but f3 I think in that case. So if knight c3, b takes c3, bishop e4, there's f3. Taking on c3 is sort of positionally forced. He can go bishop g4 too, and I'll take the free move with h3, and then he'll go bishop e6. Threatening takes here. And probably I'll just protect the pawn with queen d3. This seems, maybe a tiny bit better for white. Nothing super special. Yeah, that's the usual way to go. Probably after queen d3, he can't go g5, and yeah, that doesn't make any damn sense. All right, I'm just gonna go queen d3. And as is usual, we see this in a lot of the openings that I play, actually. White gets this d4, c4 structure against a pawn on d5, and basically your whole goal is to play e4 and introduce enough annoying tension that he's forced to resolve the tension with d takes e4. But d takes c4 seems like a big concession. I do not like this idea. I do not like this for black at all. Okay, so does d5 immediately do anything? Perhaps not. Maybe just e4. But I don't even have to block this bishop in yet. Maybe he still has a future. Probably not, but it's possible. Maybe rook a to b1. That way on bishop h3 I can take, and then b7 is loose. He's probably going to go knight a6 at some point, but at least after rook a to b1, knight a6 to c7 hangs this b pawn too. It's also relatively common in these structures for white to go f4 and only then bring your knight back to f3. Of course, this knight is very crappy on on this square, and it usually just has to come back. But a lot of times before it comes back, you can pop in f4. In this specific position, I'd be threatening f5, which is kind of interesting. So I could go f4, but I think I'm probably going to flick in rook a to b1 first. It's just a useful move. Put my rook on the open file, get it off the long diagonal. Yeah. Oh, no. My phone is dying. I'm going to go run real quick, put it on the charger. My fiance is driving. She's going to call me at some point and be really irritated if I don't pick up. I'm back. You know, I keep these streams super professional. Awkward 15-second silences while I go put my dying phone on the charger. I'm part of the generation of people who pretty much have a cell phone on them at all times, no matter what. Though I started my new job and cell phones are not allowed out in the shop, which is actually pretty refreshing. I guess like it becomes so easy to hop on the internet when you're bored. You know, you're just sitting on the couch watching TV, or you know, you're hanging out during your lunch break or whatever, and you just pop on the internet and check Twitter, check Slack, check ChessPub, check Reddit, etc. And actually not having the option to do that is sort of refreshing, and just just be with yourself and be with your friends and be with your family and etc. So what does he do? One of the main problems with Queen D7 is it just really interferes with Black's development. I mean, his pieces are just not harmoniously placed at this point. You look at his position, and the rook e8 doesn't really make sense on e8 when there's a bishop on e6 and blocks the e5 break. Whoa, did you guys see that? That made like a thin green circle for a second. That was a weird bug. Yeah, I mean, the rook on e8 doesn't really make sense, and the queen on d7 blocks the best square for this knight. And if you put the knight on a6, a knight on a6, a queen on d7, a bishop on e6, and a rook on e8, they just simply don't make any sense. And combine that with the fact that Black has, I would say, less central space, clearly less central space, and no real way to remedy that situation. I really think Black is already quite a bit worse here. And not only that, but I don't think his position is all that easy to play. So we'll see how this goes. But Black's structure is really solid, and a lot of times, you know, when you have the solid structure, even if you're sort of in the theoretical sense clearly worse, it's not easy for the other guy to break you down. I have to be on the lookout for good times to play d5. Maybe I can go f4, f5. Or maybe I can play something as simple as rook b2, rook a to b1, force him to play b6, leave this guy a little loose, open up the long diagonal as well. Maybe then I can pound him with d5. I don't know. We'll see what he decides to play here. Yeah, I mean, he really needs to play bishop h3 almost to sort of try and trade off some pieces. Trading off a couple minor pieces would really alleviate Black's problems quite a bit, but it's not easy to do because bishop h3 is tactically not possible at the moment, and yeah, probably if he takes the time out to play something like b6 to sort of intend bishop h3, I have the time to go something like rook f to e1 or rook f to d1 and meet bishop h3 with bishop h1. Kind of leave him in the same spot he was in before. And I would assume the insertion of b6 and rook fd1 is very favorable for white, so we'll see. And in the meantime, of course, I need to reroute my knight away from f3 back into the center somehow, back into some kind of a useful function. So I have to sort of decide whether or not I want to go f4 and then knight f3, or just simply knight f3 within the coming moves anyway. Rook fd1 is probably on the cards. Rook fde1 is also possible, intending to go e4 and having the rook maybe on the e file, just in case I play d5 and c takes d5, e takes d5 or whatever. But because I want to play d5 and because d4 is probably the only real possibility for a weakness in my position, maybe rook f to d1 makes more sense. And of course, lining up the rook with the queen is always generally a useful way to sort of position your rook. So probably my next moves, candidate-wise, would be something like e4, rook fd1, f4, knight f3, or d5 right away if for some reason that ends up looking good. But I'm not sure at the moment that does anything. If it were my turn, d5, bishop takes c3, queen takes c3, let's say, c takes d5, c takes d5, bishop takes d5, rook fd1. That might work tactically. e6, e4. So if something like d5, bishop takes c3, queen takes c3, c takes, bishop h3 instead. Bishop takes, queen takes, rook takes b7, maybe. Maybe that's possible. I'm not sure that line's accurate. This guy's taking a long time. This guy's putting Tony Rowe to shame as far as thinking time goes here. But I'll take it. I'm working on a long video that details some really nice games from the Lee Chess 45-45 League. Yeah, so knight a6. I think given this guy's propensity for time trouble and the fact that it's really not all that easy for him to free himself from this, sort of pseudo bind, I might just play rook fd1 relatively quickly. And just let him think about how he wants to continue to unwind. He has a relatively obvious move in rook a to d8 or rook e to d8. Maybe even rook a to b8. Rook a to b8 would prep either bishop h3 or just simple knight c7. I don't actually know if c7's that great of a square for the knight, but it's probably at least better than a6. c5 in these positions is really just not feasible because of d5. I think that would be just clearly better for white. In this specific case, c5 would run into rook takes b7, but just in general, I think c5, d5, bishop h3 will be better for white somehow. In that specific case, I'm not even sure I would save my light squared bishop. Okay, so he goes rook a to b8. That makes a lot of sense. So he wants to go bishop h3, clearly. So is there some way I can bust him up here? I wonder about f4. I'm a little bit less excited. I didn't really think about this when I played rook f to d1. I'm a little bit less excited about f4 when f5 isn't really all that interesting. But it is just kind of a good idea to go f4 and then... Wow, that was a pathetic attempt at f4 knight f3 with arrows. Okay, so let's think about it here. If f4... I'm just thinking here about if black is really threatening to play something like b5. Probably not. If b5, I'm going to go ahead and say that c takes b5. C takes b5. d5 is just probably better for white. Bishop takes c3. Queen takes c3. Maybe in this specific case. b5, c takes b5, c takes b5, d5. Bishop takes c3, d takes e6 is good. And if queen takes d3, rook takes d3. Yeah, maybe that's good. That seems kind of good. So b5 is probably, I was thinking about a4 is the thing. d5 right away. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I should play here. Yeah. F4 looks kind of weird here. I'm a little bit reluctant to play it. It does look reasonable, though, nonetheless. He's kind of sort of starting to build up a little bit of pressure on this d4 pawn. He doesn't have a great way to actually finish it off, though, does he? Yeah, that doesn't look like anything. All right, I'm going to go f4. I'm going to stop thinking about it. It's starting to look a little dangerous for black after something like e4 and d5. Just that's a big center. That's a man center right there. And if bishop h3, I'm sort of undecided as to whether or not I want to go e4 right away or save the bishop somehow. Yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm going to save it. I don't think that bishop is very good on h3, and I want to make him worry about it for a while. Maybe knight f3 to g5 is coming, or just in general. It's just not that well placed of a piece. Maybe my bishop on h1 still has kind of a future after d5. So white's probably, still slightly better here. I still like white. Knight f3 to g5 or knight f3 to e5 is possible. One of these things, or just e4. Maybe make a flexible, just sort of multi-purpose improving move. So something like rook d2. I can swing this rook back into the action via d1, e1, f1 even, and whoa. Or double on the b file, and if after rook d2 I go e4, bishop g4 no longer gains a tempo on my rook, so a move like that is also possible. e5 is pretty much never going to happen now. I'm clicking like a psychopath today. c5 will basically always be met by d5, I think. Black still has to figure out something to do with this knight. One idea is c5, d5, bishop takes c3, queen takes c3, knight b4. That's interesting. Probably just a3, though, is forces the knight to go back to a6, so maybe that's not that interesting. What does black do otherwise? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm crushing him or anything. It's not easy to really find any killing blows, but I think black has problems to deal with that maybe it's not super obvious how to fix all his defects. Yeah, so rook fd8, I think that's a good move. Okay, does he have any real threats here? Probably not. Thinking just probably e4. Or maybe knight f3. I can even play it really slow and just go e3. But I'm not sure I'm in love with that. So how do I improve here? I don't know why, but just playing a4 comes to mind. Just not sure it's any good though. Trying to evaluate the consequences of knight f3, bishop g4, knight e5, bishop takes e5, f takes e5. Feels like it should be better for white. Two bishops, big center, open f file. If a4, maybe then c5, hitting this thing. So let's not do that. I'm just, I'm just going to go knight f3. Bring this guy back into the action. My only real problem piece. If he goes bishop g4, I'll probably... Yeah, I'm just not sure. I mean... Playing something like e4 is, or e3 then is also just possible. And if he wants to play bishop takes f3 and give up his light squared bishop for my knight, I'm relatively happy to do that. I was a little reluctant to play knight f3 because I harbored some hope of going maybe after e4, knight g2 to e3. I think e3 is a pretty good square for my knight. Well placed in the center, supports f5, supports d5, and perhaps it allows, you know, jumps to g4 or something like that. Yeah, I mean, part of the problem for black is that he just doesn't have a really good pawn break. I've said this a bunch of times on my channel that no pawn break equals no plan. And, you know, a lot of times no pawn break equals no counterplay. And it's just not, it's not that easy to find ways to really play for black here. b5 doesn't look like it's very good. And e5 has been ruled out pretty effectively by Huey and Louie here. Yeah, it's just not. And black just has these awkward minor pieces here hanging out. I'm just not sure how black can solve his problems. One plan that came to mind quickly, and then I kind of dismissed it, is to go c5, d5, bishop takes c3, queen takes c3, and then play knight c7, knight e8, and knight d6, blockading the d pawn. But e4, e5 just boots the knight. The knight is not stable on d6. It would be otherwise a very strong square for the knight on d6, but in this specific case, it just doesn't work. So black is thinking about b5 now, I think. How concerned do I need to be about that? Hard to say. It's possible that I can just meet b5 with c5, and the d5 square that would be left weak after this operation is not really a concern because I always have e4, at least for now. So where do I go? And what do I do? Who is your daddy and what does he do? Shout out if you've seen Kindergarten Cop. That movie's sweet. I'm going to play rook d2. I kind of like this move. I have no illusions that this move is the best move, but I think it's a move. So the idea is maybe I can go e4, and if he goes bishop g4 in that case, my knight's no longer pinned and I can hop into e5. As well as I think this rook might be useful on the b file, perhaps, on b2. And also, okay, so he's going for it. I think this is probably not a bad idea for black. I think I am going to go c5, though. This move would not be very good if the d5 pawn was a stable outpost for black. This would be an extremely good operation for black, but in this specific case, it doesn't feel like he's totally solving his problems with it. I think I'm just going to go bishop a1. Save my bishop, and now e4 is coming. He could play something really radical like f5, but I think that would be probably... What's the saying? The cure is worse than the disease. Is that it? I'm not sure. 11 seconds. Guy needs to speed it up a little bit. Queen e6. Does not compute. I don't know what that move does. Oh, he wants to get in here. Okay. I get it. Yeah, I think I'm just going to give this guy the boot. I can grab the two bishops with knight g5 at some point. Pretty tempted to do that. I love a good two bishops advantage. You always have to look for something better, though. I'm also not going to try and blitz my opponent out by making a bunch of moves really fast here and you know, perhaps ruining my position. I have time. I'm going to use it. It seems good for me to go knight g5, queen d7, knight h3, queen h3, queen h3, and then just d5. And if bishop takes a1, rook takes a1, don't forget that I have this bishop on h1 that's protecting the d5 square. So c takes d5, e takes d5, and he doesn't have knight takes d5 or rook takes d5 because of this bishop. So I think I'm probably going to do that. I like the looks of this very much. That might give me bishop f3 for free, which I would be happy to take, I think. Yeah, let's play bishop f3 first. I'm thinking if I can use my knight on g5 for more useful purposes than just immediately exchanging. Like, for instance, f5 is very tempting here, cutting off the queen's defense of the knight, or the bishop. And what does he play? G takes f5, knight takes h3, f takes e4 is possible, I guess. Man, that's sick. How is that working for black? I can also just go d5, I guess. I'm just going to take this thing. I'm going to stick to the original plan of going d5 next move. And I'll pre-move. Rook takes a1. I am giving him some obvious moves to play, which is a little bit frustrating when the guy's in time trouble, but this position looks quite good for me. Rook e1 at some point I think is going to be annoying. Okay, so he's just heading back. Perhaps a wise decision. I think I'm going to just play rook e1. Bring my last piece into the game. Remind him that he's got a backward e7 pawn. Maybe queen e3 at some point is irritating. c6. Whoa. c6 also becomes kind of enticing. Whoa, I don't have any time either. This is going to become a real slop fest, I think. I would like to just centralize all of my pieces and do some damage here. All right. He's making me play c6, which I don't really mind. Yeah, trading queens not recommended. Interesting. d6 is starting to look like a pretty serious threat. Just kidding. He has knight a4. That's okay. I'll just go back. I do need to find some way to really actually make progress here, but I can make some useful just random improving moves here for a second. Maybe I can force a weakness on g6, play rook e6. That looks pretty good. So let's take, play here. Bishop e4 is coming up next. If you play something like king f7. Yeah, I thought he might do that. I'm not going to give up this strong d5 pawn. Now this rook coming into g5 is good. He might go knight d2, just try to harass me a little bit. Probably just bishop e2 in that case. All right, let's just... We're up a pawn. h5 is loose. That move looks bad. And he resigns. So, all right. Definitely let that get a little bit away from me, I think, at the end, but not too bad. So let's do this. Let's grab this game. A relatively clean technical game, I think, for the most part. So let's pop into Tony Rose Studies. And pop this game in here. And we basically get a kind of not so popular variation of the Fianchetto Grünfeld. I would more commonly reach positions like these, I think, via, let's say, a move order like this. So knight f6, g3, g6, bishop g2, bishop g7, castles, d4. And I normally hope for d6 because I really like to play 6b3, but some people go d5. Of course, Grünfeld players go d5. And instead of playing the main move c4, I usually play 6 knight b to d2. And the most common way to play in this position is c6, and then white can go c4, bishop f5, b3, knight b to d7, or knight e4, rook e8. All of these moves are reasonable, and then after bishop b2, we're in fairly similar positions to what I got in the game. Slightly different, but I more common reach Grünfeld-like positions via that move order than this Anglo-Slav move order, but both are perfectly reasonable. And like I said, it is possible for white to go either queen c2, knight c3, or d3 here. Some kind of... probably actually not knight c3 because d4 in this specific move order. Sometimes black already has knight b to d7 in, and then knight c3 is possible. And you can go d3 here. That's another way to play. And after knight d7, I think white normally goes queen c2, and if black plays e5, white will take on d5. I'm not sure there's anything wrong in this specific case with c takes b5, though. There are a lot of times some issues with the c file. For instance, if we were to use a more conventional move order maybe and go something like knight b to d7 here, and let's just say queen c2, rook e8, and then knight c3. So white delays d3 or d4. If black goes e5 here, white can take. And if c takes d5, there's knight b5. And knight c7 is a very serious threat, of course. And if something like the cute rook e6 intending knight c7, rook c6, there's queen c7. And stuff starts to look real ugly real quick with bishop h3, bishop a3, knight d6, the queen moving again. If black, messes with his pieces a little bit, then knight c7 comes back. e7 is hanging. So yeah, I think things start to get pretty serious here, for instance. So sometimes in these lines, white can allow, black's whole idea is, of course, to go e5, but a lot of times white can allow it in this specific move order. So black has to play knight takes d5 in this position, and then maybe after something like d3, I think it's for practical theoretically it's equal, but white scores pretty well here, actually. So that's another sort of little bit of background. Knight e4 here seems interesting. It doesn't seem bad. Yeah, there's kind of the question of which way I should challenge this thing. If I go this way and he takes, I could really take either way. Queen d2 seems a little bit more natural to me. Yeah, I guess this is pretty good too. Because any discovery on the d4 pawn, d takes c4, knight takes c4, and I'd be re-protecting the d pawn twice, so probably, yeah, maybe this is actually a better way to go to challenge this knight than what I did. Because after this, I mean, I get this bishop on c3 instead of this queen d2 is essentially what happens, and I'd certainly, obviously, rather have the free queen move than put my bishop on this undefended c3 square that really isn't any different than b2, so. There are some positions where white can just go e4 immediately and sack the pawn on c4, but I don't feel like this is one of them. So I went queen d3, f4. Interesting. And if here, f5. Wow, really? And if takes, just go all the way down. How is this a thing? If queen b3, bishop d4... And Stockfish does not care. So if this... there's e3. That's the idea. And if takes... Is there rook takes on f7? Is that the idea? Oh, there's just rook h5. And if bishop g7, there's bishop e4. Is that the idea? Yeah. Wow, that is a savage beating. Of course, on h6, rook takes h6 mates. Wow, that's crazy. That is a ridiculous line. There's literally no way any normal human being is ever finding this. Just way too much here, so. Okay, wow. Pretty sweet, but yeah, never happening. But it is interesting that Stockfish also thinks this thematic f4 is a good idea. So queen d3 is a very natural, normal move. I think d takes c4 is not good. Probably this move is a mistake. There's no real reason. This is, again, I think, a good... I talk about tension a lot on my channel because I feel like, there are a lot of obvious things that I think people say when, okay, how do I improve at chess? What's the thing I need to do to get to the next level? I think for a lot of club players, okay, tactics, right? Getting a reliable opening repertoire that you, that leads to positions that you understand how to play the middle games well, for instance, having elementary practical and technical endgame knowledge. Of course, those things are all very important. But one thing I think club players do much worse than masters, and even, masters do it much worse than grandmasters, is that weaker players don't maintain the tension. Weaker players always seek to resolve the tension, even if it's not good for them. And in this specific case, I think this is a pretty good example. There's obviously tension between these two pawns, and you can see very easily that if either player... Well, I would think you could see very easily. If either player resolves this tension by capturing, they make their structure worse. And that's usually the case with tension. Like, it's usually only tension because resolving it is bad. And so something like d takes c4, b takes c4 in the game, black just simply makes his structure worse. He leaves himself with less space in the center, so now his farthest advanced pawn is on his third rank instead of his fourth rank, and white has these two monsters on c4 and d4. Whereas if I was, if I met this threat to my c4 pawn, for instance, by resolving the tension, black could take this way, and now white has traded this pawn on the 4th rank, which I would say more usefully controls the center and places pressure on black's center for this c6 pawn. And even worse, I've given black this good square for his knight on c6, a very natural square that pressures the center and, you know, cleanly develops black's forces. So that would also be, you know, an incorrect resolution of the central tension. And here I just think that's simply just not any good. Okay, so rook a to b1. Stockfish likes f4 right away. Sure. And if f4 right away, bishop h3. Takes. I think this makes sense. Rook a to b1, b6. All of these moves seem sort of forced. And then just e4. Yeah, I mean, this looks good too. I'm not sure it's much better than the position I got in the game, but this, of course, also looks crushing for white. This is kind of silly. This is a triumph of the flank openings concept. Okay, but rook a to b1, I mean, you know, Potzer sees obvious move. Potzer plays obvious move. This move seems good too. Knight a6. Not the only move, but an obvious one nonetheless. It is worth considering other moves other than rook fd1 here, though. I think there are a lot of them, like f4 now. Really? Oh, yeah, okay. That's funny. I didn't see this idea. It makes me really happy that I played rook fd1, though. That's funny. So the idea is f4, knight c5. I think this is exclam worthy. D takes c5, queen takes d3, e takes d3, bishop takes c3. And I could take on b7, but he gets checked there and takes there, and black doesn't have as many problems here as I think he had in the game, so interesting resource. So probably f4 right now is dubious, and actually that probably means rook fd1 is actually quite good by accident. So now this doesn't work because after knight c5, d takes c5, queen takes d3, I have rook takes d3, which protects the bishop. So rook a to b8, I think this is a reasonable move. Of course, black wants to go. Black is intending bishop h3 now. He doesn't want the b pawn to hang. So, and now I go f4. Very reasonable. I think it is worth considering, since bishop h3 is just met by bishop h1, that maybe black should just go something like rook e to d8 immediately here, and not insert bishop h3 and bishop h1. Maybe his bishop is better on e6. I think probably after e4, though, it's still pretty ugly. If bishop g4, then I would probably just go rook d2, and I think white is, of course, much better in this case as well. So Stockfish likes takes. Maybe e4 now? Yeah, I mean, the queen is not well placed there, it's true. But I didn't want to trade a pair of minor pieces. I thought his bishop was just less good on h3 than mine was on h1. I thought maybe mine still had a future, but it is worth thinking about if I'm going to go e4 to just trade off the bishops and put his queen on this crap square instead. And probably at some point I'm just going to go... Oops, I'm just going to go d5 and be better. Really? So what did I miss here? Yeah, I looked at knight f3, bishop f5, but I thought I could just go e4. I don't understand. So if e4... Oh. Wow, that's dirty. So knight f3 is just a blunder then. Knight f3, bishop f5, e4, knight c5. Really tough sequence to find, though. And yeah, I'm just hanging stuff. If I move my queen, e4 hangs, and if I take, then really. So takes, bishop e4, rook e3. Ah, there's just... Oh, I mean, I'm just hanging a ton of stuff here. Yeah, I can't... What am I doing? Just this, and I have to take here first, I guess. And then he gets to take here, and I'm probably just losing. So, wow. Okay, well, I totally missed that. I saw these knight c5 ideas a little bit late, I think. I saw around here that they weren't working, and then I just sort of ignored them. That's pretty good. So I really kind of bungled this, it looks like. I thought I was just still completely crushing him. Yeah, bishop a5 was probably good. Around here, the wheels start coming off, though. I mean, this just starts to look really bad. I looked at queen b3 on every move except this one. And so if he goes knight e6... if he goes knight e6, now there's bishop f3. Right? Yeah, that's a pretty savage beating. I didn't see that. Quite a large miss. And if e6, yeah, there's just always this queen trapping motif. That is nifty. So queen b3, rook f8 is forced because he needs to be able to retreat the queen to d7 or c8. And probably now I can just go d5, or I can take and then go d5. It's almost more useful for me to leave these crap pieces. I mean, these pieces are so poorly placed. And also just, I mean, these moves are always possible, especially knight h3 because the queen self-traps the bishop in. So knight h3 is always going to be possible. It is probably better for me to just go d5 right away and leave everything else. And yeah, I'm just killing him. I did want to look at f5 because I didn't see a way to make this work tactically. The only move I really considered here was knight h3, but I couldn't make it work after this. And I just take here. And for the real rub-ins, the queen protects h7. And there's just not that much here, so... and then e5. And I'm just threatening to take here now. And he can't go here because h7 hangs, and he's just getting crushed. I didn't see this. Did not see this at all. That's a bummer. Yeah, I looked at f5, didn't quite get it. Didn't see all the right moves. But this seemed completely satisfactory to me too. I mean, I don't think black under man, I'm just I'm missing a lot of stuff. Okay, so why doesn't knight d5 work? Because actually now that I look at it, it seems pretty obvious. No. Maybe there's some stuff with c6, so if here takes e6, c6, rook d5, c7, rook c8. Yeah, there's not really anything here. So if here c7 right away, or c6 right away. Yeah, a move like knight takes f4, I think, runs into queen takes d8. And you're just getting killed. You can't stop me from queening, and you're just losing. So after c6 here. Wow, yeah, I mean, this is complicated. This is, truth be told, I didn't see knight takes d5. I really should have. Maybe after something like rook c1, just protecting the pawn. White is still better. I think the light squared bishop is better than this knight, and the pawn on c6, of course, is much better than anything black has going on. After this, I think it's pretty one-sided. If the pawn on d5 is... If this duo is allowed to stand, I think black is probably just losing. I don't think there's a great way for black to really get it done here. It seems like he probably had to go for knight takes d5, even if it's still quite a bit worse for black. I did wonder about queen d4 here instead. That also seemed quite good. Either way, I really want my queen on e5, I think. And if it's not enough for me to really start pushing these guys or pressuring e7, I also have ideas with f5 or h5 that are possible. So if for some reason this pressure is not getting it done and these things are not getting it done, then I can sort of open up open up other avenues of attack, even pushing my pawn all the way to h6 and trying to use it to mate him on g7 or provoke f6, which would be super weakening. That's also a good idea. Yeah, now that I think about it, I think actually trading queens doesn't make a lot of sense because my queen is very active and centralized and powerful and is useful in working up threats against his king side. For instance, f5, f6 is a threat now. Even pushing my pawn all the way to h6 is an idea. And his queen is sort of out of the game after just something like king g2. And this queen is very good and this queen is not that good. And something like f5 or even just pushing the pawn to h6 looks strong here. So probably I should not trade queens, but we were both low on time, and I figured these things and the pressure on the e-pawn was going to be good enough for me to win anyway, so yeah, I mean, it just seemed positionally overwhelming for me, so but maybe probably objectively not trading the queens was better. d6. I looked at d6 and I guess at shallow depths it didn't look like it was getting it done. So what's the idea here? d6, e takes d6. Ah, that's what I missed. So I looked at d6, e takes d6, taking all the rooks off, and after king e8, I didn't see a way after c7, king d7 to get anything going, but there's d6 takes c7 immediately. Okay, so of course if he doesn't take, if he plays something like e6 or he allows me to take on e7, he's just dead lost, of course. So taking seems like really the only move, and then c7 is just crushing him. Of course, rook e3, I'm making a queen, he doesn't have time, and if he just moves the rook like this, now I take everything off and his back rank is loose and I'm just killing him. So that's a bummer. Yeah, a missed tactical opportunity. I mean, his position still kind of stinks, so it doesn't much matter. Probably h5 is not very good. This is likely a mistake because after f5, I'm creating a second weakness, and it's a pretty fatal one. It looks like. This looks extremely bad for black, so it's not really all that surprising to me that his position fell apart pretty quick after this. Yeah, there's just nothing here. So, interesting game. Definitely not as smooth as I thought it was. It wasn't like the well-played positional squeeze that I thought I had. There was definitely one point here where I missed this bishop f5 and knight c5 tactic. I'm not too upset. That was a tough one. I don't even think my opponent probably even contemplated it. I didn't, for sure. And yeah, there were a couple cleaner wins and a couple stronger ideas, but overall I think I played okay. And, you know, a win is a win. And okay, I'll be back with another game soon, guys, and some more educational stuff, so stay tuned. Bye.